based on the works of Karol Wyszyński. Diaries of Magic Eyes.
January 10th. Dear Diary, for some reason I haven't been able to write for the past month, but now I'll make up for it. Back to December 9th, the day after I went to visit Plamina and was stunned by the city guards. I slowly started to open my eyes to see Dobrzegniu kneeling next to my bed, his head resting on the blanket next to my legs. He was deep in sleep. That's when I realized I was hearing humming. Plamina was sitting next to me and humming a melody. It was like the first time I heard it, and it seemed so familiar, like I'd heard it hundreds of times. That's when I saw an unfamiliar image in my head, where I was lying in bed trying to fall asleep, listening to the words of a lullaby sung by my nanny, the melody of which sounded identical. More and more images started to appear in my head. I sat down and Plamina immediately came up to me and asked how I felt, so I replied that I was fine apart from the fact that I was sore all over. Then I noticed a woman sitting at the table. Judging by her dress, it was the same one we had escorted. I looked at Plamina again. I felt that I had to do one thing. I asked her to hum the melody again. She was surprised, but sat down and started humming again. I sat there, listening, and words that fit perfectly began to form in my head. I joined Plamina, at first quietly, and then louder and louder, singing the lullaby. My friend looked at me with a surprised look, but she didn't stop humming. After a while, the woman joined us, and we sang the lullaby together. When we finished, I looked at Plamina and with a smile on my face replied, "It was good to be able to listen to that lullaby again, Nanny." At these words, she was speechless, as if she had seen a ghost. I broke the silence with the words, "Yes, Nanny. It's me, your little princess." Tears appeared in Plamina's eyes. I don't blame her. For years she thought I was dead, and I lived peacefully in Hops Hill deprived of my own memories. The three of us sat down with Plamina and Mira to talk, while Dobrzegniu was still asleep. We discussed what had happened 6 years ago. I was the princess of the Western Kingdom, and I was going to an official engagement with the prince of the Western Kingdom. Near the border, my convoy was attacked, and the kidnappers were wearing the colors of the Eastern Kingdom. They took me and my nanny north to the territory of the Northern Kingdom. Among them was a little girl named Mira. She was my age, 12, and she also had blonde hair. She was an orphan, whom the kidnappers decided to take along. As fate would have it, the kidnappers were attacked by bandits and everyone died. Taking advantage of the confusion, together with Plamina and Mira, we escaped to the nearby forest, but unfortunately we were caught. We separated among the trees. Mira stayed with Plamina, and I was left alone. I tried to fight, but I turned out to be too weak then, and the opponent defeated me and left me barely alive in the forest. I was wearing only a simple robe because the kidnappers ordered me to change earlier, so they assumed I was an ordinary girl. Then the residents of Hops Hill found me and raised me by them. Returning to Plamina and Mira, they explained that they had been caught and taken to Pinewood City. It turned out that Leslaw himself, the king of the Northern Kingdom, ordered my kidnapping to prevent the alliance of the Western and Eastern Kingdoms. He hired a group of bandits to kidnap me, and then a second group to get rid of the first one. The king became furious when he learned that the girl standing before him was not a princess, but an ordinary girl. He asked where I was, but was told that I was dead. Then he came up with the idea that I would adopt Mira, and when the time came, she would marry the prince of the Eastern Kingdom. And so it happened. Mira was raised as the princess of the Northern Kingdom, and Plamina was forced to help as her nanny. Unfortunately, this year, Plamina was deemed useless and was ordered to be disposed of. However, with the help of Mira and her trusted people, she managed to escape to Fish City, where she found work as a waitress until she was found and kidnapped, and you know the rest of the story. To sum up, I am Bogusława, princess of the Western Kingdom, and I am engaged to Dobromir III, prince of the Eastern Kingdom, who is now to be engaged to the false princess of the Northern Kingdom Mira at the end of the year. It is hard to even believe it all. Then we realized that Dobrzegniu was waking up, and it dawned on me. He said that his beloved had been kidnapped 6 years ago, and that at the end of the year, he was to be engaged to a new woman. He has magic eyes, which are a sign of royal blood. Everything became clear, especially since he was traveling with Bradomir, Isbur, and Jarmila. Dobrzegnio is actually Dobromer. When my companion fully woke up and started looking around for me, he approached me and asked in a worried voice how I felt. In a serious voice, I replied that I felt betrayed by him. He was surprised and asked what I meant. I replied that he had promised love to his fiancée, but he couldn't find her. My answer surprised him even more. He didn't know what I was talking about at all. I looked him straight in the eye and shouted, Dobromer 3. You promised me love, and you couldn't find me for over 6 years. You didn't even know that I've been under your nose for 3 months. He was speechless. He tried to analyze what I had just said. To clarify the matter, I revealed my birthmark on my arm to make him realize who I really was. For a moment, he couldn't believe it, but when it finally got through to him, he hugged me and cried. He was really happy that he had found me, but he understood that there was a problem. At the end of the year, his engagement to Mira is to be announced, and it is too late to call it off. Then Mira butted in and asked if Dobrzegnio was really Dobromer, her future fiancé. We confirmed it, and she admitted that she had something to confess. Mira told us about the vile plan of her adoptive father, the king of the Northern Kingdom. The plan is that right after the wedding, or rather during it, as soon as the title of king is passed on to Dobromer, one of the guards overseeing the ceremony is to assassinate the new king. In this way, power in the northern and eastern kingdoms will fall to Mira, or rather her father. To make sure that Dobromer II does not interfere, he is also to lose his life on the same day. Then, thanks to the power of the two kingdoms united, a war with the Western Kingdom is to begin, which would probably lose this one. We couldn't believe that someone could be so greedy as to go so far. That's when we realized that King Leslaw had taken Mira in just so she could help him seize power. Everyone, including Mira, agreed that we couldn't let that happen, and together we started to devise a plan to prevent the actions of our new enemy. The solution we came up with was that Dobromer would supposedly meet Mira by accident while traveling around the Northern Kingdom, which was supposed to familiarize himself with the culture. During this meeting, they would jointly agree to get married as soon as possible, in early January. This was to prevent the king from thoroughly preparing an assassination attempt. Additionally, the wedding would take place in Fish City and with the assistance of local mercenaries, to emphasize how important this event was to the people. In reality, it was so that we would have an advantage in knowledge of the area over the enemy and ensure support in battle thanks to Bolbor and Melena's mercenaries. Bogusława, the queen of the Western Kingdom, was also to be invited to the wedding, so that she could also participate in this important event and immediately after the wedding, start talks about the alliance. I won't lie, I only proposed the invitation to her because I wanted to be able to see my mother as soon as possible. This is how the wedding was to take place, with one more small change. Mira wasn't supposed to stand under a veil in front of the altar, only me. I was supposed to marry Dobromer that day, and when the assassination attempt finally happened, stand by his side and fight the former king of the Northern Kingdom. Today our wedding took place, and our plan worked almost perfectly. The problem arose when we started fighting Leslaw himself. He activated his magic eyes of ruby color and pulled our metal weapons towards him. He laughed right in our faces, because what could we do to him without weapons? Me and Dobromer used our magic eyes, which were strengthened thanks to our bond like in Twin Mountain. An emerald spear appeared in my hand, and my husband's hands glowed sapphire, becoming harder than steel. Thanks to our combined forces, we finally won. The former king fell in this fight through his own fault. He tried to attack us by pulling the weapon towards himself in such a way that it would hit my body while flying towards him, but I used my speed. The weapon flew past me, piercing him through and through. And so, from today on, together with Dobromer III, we are the king and queen of the entire island.